Hey, just before we start the video, just wanted to say a couple things. One, I accidentally used the audio from my web camera, so it doesn't sound great, and it picked up the background noise of the NBA Finals that I was watching in the video. And secondly, this is a little older, but a bunch of stuff came in the way of me getting this out in time. But there's a lot of really great information here with Chip and I about like maybe 40 or so prospects. We get into round two. We do full player breakdowns. I thought it was still really worth getting out to you. And then lastly, I want to say thank you to everybody that has subscribed to the channel. It really means a lot. You put in a lot of effort, so it's cool to see people wanting to see, videos and really like appreciate things. So, without further ado, and as always, there's timestamps. So hopefully we did not butcher what your team needs are. Enjoy the video.
Morant with a running start. Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness!
What is up, everybody? I wasn't lying. I am coming back with another mock draft before this one, or before even the next year. So that's 3 videos in like a month, which is probably like a new record for me. But I will not be alone today. I'm joined by somebody that's much more in line with actual smart drafting and not just wild like accusations. Welcome in, Chip. How's it going, man?
Good. You're giving me too much credit there.
Not enough credit.
No, I don't know about that. But no, man, I'm looking forward to this. This is always a ton of fun. Wow, got the draft guru and everything.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that.
Pulling out all the stops here. Yeah, I'll say that. I mean, like, this is definitely, aside from the actual draft night itself, I enjoy doing like our mock drafts. For one, you're one of the only people that I know that I can just sit and talk to for like an hour about just draft. Like, nobody else wants to hear me talk about the draft, right? So, and you're able to just kind of like it's like a tennis match of you just hitting back at me, so it's always like a fun conversation. You always bring totally different insights into things that like I wouldn't even like to think about. So I'm excited for that. Before we get into it, I kind of wanted to throw this question to you. Is this a weak draft? I've heard this weird narrative over and over again, and I mean, me personally, I feel as though it's a lazy narrative. I assume it's being put out there because there's no obvious star. There's no Zion. There's no Victor. There's no, and when people have to do work, they just kind of assume it's a harder draft to gauge and it's weak. But with the idea that this is worse than like 2013 is just bonkers. I mean, like, there's so many better players in this draft than, and just in a normal, just in like a vacuum setting, I guess, or whatever. So, I mean, like, to you, where do you think that this, this current class ranks?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think where that narrative comes from is exactly what you said, where like there's not a Wemby, there's not a Zion, there's not even Cade Cunningham, any of these guys that are considered like, can't miss guys that you can build your roster around. I think if you're coming into this draft and that's what you're looking for, then probably going to be a little disappointed. But I think that there's a ton of talent and a ton of guys that, you can really build with, right? You may not find the best guy on a title team, but you can find really good high-end playoff rotation guys in this draft. So, it's a good year for like, for example, a team like the Grizzlies and what they, quote unquote need coming out of this draft. They just need to find a guy, maybe that's their 5th starter or a guy who can give them minutes in the playoffs. And if you're picking 9th, I think you should be able to find that in this draft. So yeah, I'm with you though. I think that narrative completely comes from, there's not the one superstar guy that you're going to build around who's going to be the number 1 on a title team.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think what was like 2020 with like Anthony Edwards. So like, that to me, that was probably the last draft that like people thought, that there's no real star here. And I'm sure every team would gladly take Anthony Edwards right now. Like, he's this next up and coming star, and not just, I mean, like, and then him, and then like there was a few other players also. I mean, like, I can't say James Wiseman, but there was other players, in there that are good. So Exactly. I mean, like, unfortunately, he's been injured. Like half of his
Right.
his shelf life currently. But yeah, for sure. I mean, so there's going to be studs in this draft, and that there's going to be really great players. I mean, like there's probably 15 guys here that will have 10-year careers, and then probably five guys that are all stars, and then one guy that'll almost be like in that like next level tier of like possible like MVP guy. I mean, it happens every draft. Just in terms of how athletics work, is people get better. People take what others have done and then apply new metrics to think. I mean, like it's insane. I mean, like this class is obviously going to be good. So what we're going to be doing today, guys, is doing like a mock draft, a back and forth. So myself and Chip, I guess I'll go first, but we're just going to be kind of just going on what we think that they'll do. Now we were going to do trades, but trades could be like a whole other video, at least like an hour long of me and Chip going back and forth over picks and salaries. So we're going to spare you guys that. But what we're going to do is just assuming that these teams make these picks. Of course, people will be drafting in different spots probably come June 26th, and players moving up and down, but just on the off chance, the 1% chance that nobody makes any moves and that everybody has these actual picks, that's how we're going to be drafting. Today we found out that Nikola Topic, I guess he came in a little bit shorter than like people thought. I think that they're doing the combine overseas, and he's only like 6'5" or so, and his wingspan's like actually like a negative wingspan.
Yeah, I think that there were some rumors that he had a 7-foot wingspan, and it came in at I think 6'6", and I believe it was 6'5" and a half without shoes on, and 6'6" wingspan. So like maybe 6'7". It was underwhelming. And to be honest with you, if you just watch him play, I think it's pretty obvious he doesn't have a 7-foot wingspan. Like you can tell when a guy has a +6 wingspan. Like look at Vince Williams Jr. You can just tell. Yeah, that guy's arms are way longer than his, what's proportionate for his body. So, yeah, I don't really know why that rumor was out there. But yeah, clearly he's not that big, and he's got the ACL stuff. So really unfortunate, 48 hours for Topic.
Yeah. And I mean, like obviously he'll probably be dropping some on draft night, and he'll be dropping on my board here. I don't know about Chips, but let's just get into it, and we'll talk about certain prospects as they come up and everything. Let me get back to this screen. So there's so much noise right now with the Hawks in this pick. Where we're hearing that they might want to trade back and take Donovan, which I think is kind of crazy to me that they have a chance to draft, like Sar or like Reese Shea here. Because it's me, I'm just not even going to get into them moving up and stuff. I'm just going to take Sar. I think that when you have a chance to get a guy who could be like a multi-factor big, he's very athletic, he moves well, he can handle, he has a chance at having like a really good shot. To me, that's a pretty safe. I would say safe pick, but it's a really sound choice at swinging there, because if you fail on him, nobody's gonna blame you for it. So I'm gonna go with Sar as the first pick here, which would put you up at number 2. And where are you thinking for the Wizards?
Yeah, we were obviously discussing a little bit beforehand who was going to, take the odds, who was going to take the evens, who's going to have the number 1 pick. And I was like, man, you just pick which French guy you want. So that way, with the second pick, I don't have to think about it, and I'll just take the French guy that you didn't take. And so I'll take Zachary Reese-Shea. Reese-Shea is a little bit lower for me than where he's going to get picked. But I understand why teams would like him. You look for that type of profile of shooter, defender, potentially some handle creation upside. I think that's really where the questions lie. And for me, why he's not going to be ultimately probably a top 5 prospect for me. Just I don't really believe in his ability to initiate or create for himself very much. I think he's more of a 3-and-D with maybe eventually he attacks some closeouts and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he's an interesting prospect. And if you're Washington, I think you just need talent. You feel decent about Bilal Coulibaly. I think Tristan Vucevic came in and showed a little bit this past season, so you feel decent about that. But you just need an influx of young talent to add with, Denny Avdia, Koulibaly, Vucevic, some of these guys. So we'll take Zachary Risacher second.
Yeah, I'm very back and forth on him because I know that here recently he's had a little bit of a hot streak on like a few games, so he's showing a little bit more of what he can do. I don't know. I watch him and I don't see that, because some people are saying that he could be the next, French Kevin Durant or something, and I'm just like, I watched Kevin Durant in college, like that guy was a monster. Like, he was so insane in college, and I don't see that with Reese. I see a guy with great size and range, and he runs well, but there's just a mentality switch in terms of how guys attack, and I don't see that from him. So, right. I mean, like, he's probably going to be just like a solid, okay guy. But yeah, I mean, like, if he hits and Washington needs to hit on something, then it could be really great. Moving on to number 3 with the Houston Rockets, who are now in every single outlet in terms of them trying to trade down. They're apparently trying to get Bridges. I've had a lot of Rockets fans yell at me because last time I believe I took Rob Dillingham for them. And they've all been yelling at me to take Reed Shepherd. They're like, oh, Reed's perfect here. And I feel like on paper, maybe Reed is really good. I just don't see him fitting in there. I just, in terms of his mentality, because that's a very volatile locker room, but there's a lot of big personalities over there. And I just don't know if he's going to fit in. But just to appease all of the Rockets fans, at spot 3 here, I will take Reed Shepherd.
All right, you caved to the peer pressure.
I did. I need at least one more like, so just gonna
That's who I'd pick for them too.
So on paper, Reed Shepherd, he's not as big as we thought, but he's still usable at both guard positions at that 6'2", 6'3" in shoes. He's a knockdown shooter. He plays really hard on defense. He's really smart. Both his parents play college ball. You can see that all of that is already ingrained in how he approaches every game, every possession. He, except for his last game at college, was very effective with not turning the ball over. But for some reason, his last game, he just got, I don't know if he got overwhelmed or something, but normally he's very smart. He's super efficient. Overall will be such a floor raiser, I think, for Houston. He can come in, he can give them a immediate role player from day one as just a knockdown shooter who can play both guard spots. I think that anybody who gets Reed in the top 5 or top 6 will not be disappointed.
Agreed. Huge fan. I think that he is a good fit there. You talk about you can kind of play him on ball, off ball. I know that Jalen Green had a really nice end of the season, and so they're pretty excited about him. Plus all the other young talent, like the spot up shooting, what's going to space the floor for them to allow Cam Whitmore and Şengün and some of these guys, Jabari Smith, some more space to operate. I think he makes a ton of sense there. So I'm a fan. That's who I'd take too.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like, what was it when was Jalen Green drafted? What was that?
2021.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that was our first mock draft, and in that draft, I was like, or 22. I forget what it was, but I've been a fan of how they drafted the last 3 years. I really liked Jalen Green. I liked Jabari Smith. I liked Cam Whitmore. I liked Alperen Şengün. I feel like they've got a lot of these guys that I like. They also drafted some other guys I liked, but they didn't pan out so well, and Josh Christopher and Usman Garuba. But yeah, I feel like they've got a really smart plan going on. I like what they're building. Thompson was awesome last year, also for them. So yeah, I'm hoping that they don't put it together next year, just because we're in the same conference or whatever. So hopefully it's another year or two. But we'll see how it goes.
I'm glad you brought up Amen Thompson too, because I think long term he's probably a point guard, and with his size, that allows you to play Reed Shepherd off ball. Which maybe he's even best at. So I love it. I love that pick for the Rockets. That makes a ton of sense.
All right. You were up at number 4. You have the Spurs, the first of their 2 top 10 picks.
Okay, so this is I actually find this to be a pretty tough pick. I think I'm just going to go fairly chalk here.
Okay.
And go with Stephon Castle from UConn. I really like Spawn Castle. I think that he's got like a little bit of Drew Holiday potential, maybe with this big guard who's kind of a defense first guy. Got a ways to go in terms of the shot, but the playmaking, the on ball defense, just the way he plays, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Spurs because the luxury that they have is they have, the best prospect in the NBA currently, one of the best players in the NBA currently, Victor Wembanyama, and he's such a threat anywhere on the floor from the basket all the way out to the three-point line that you can take a dice roll on a guy like Castle who has that upside, I think, to be a giant primary creator to play with Wemby. And you don't have to worry about the shot coming along too quickly just because Wemby's got that gravity, plus some of the other guys they have with especially Devin Vassell. They have a little bit of shooting, and I think now they finally pair the right playmaker who can set these guys up and continue Wemby's development.
Yeah, this is kind of how I've also been leaning in the last week. Just hearing about Castle only wanting to, be in certain workouts, that teams actually need, help at the point guard spot. This is a tactic that other people have done in the past, like guys like Steve Francis, and sometimes it works out. But even with that said, I feel like the Spurs are a great fit for him. He seems like a very no nonsense, go to work, type of guy that he just has these natural instincts, man, where he just, it's weird because he's young, but, I feel like he's always making the right read, whether it's on ball, off ball, it's defense, offense. I trust him anytime that he was on the court. His shot is something that, can obviously be, worked with and tooled. There were years ago that a guy named LeBron James was a very bad shooter, and he has worked himself into. I think he shot 39% this year from three, or 40% from three. That's him. I think Vince Carter also slowly turned himself into a type of shooter. It's something that guys that have gotten really great athleticism slowly do, because your hops leave you after probably 5 or 6 years, but that shot, man, that can keep you in the league for 20 years. So I feel like that's going to be the skill that just translates over. I love Castle here.
All right, what do you got? The Pistons at 5?
Pistons. So last time I had Reed going here, and some Pistons fans liked it, some Pistons fans didn't like it. I've heard them rumbling that they also like Dalton Connect as well, which I thought was kind of high. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, that's kind of weird. And there's a lot of fans that really like Montas Buzelis. It's hard with them because they have some good pieces, as we look here, Cade Cunningham is great. Ivy and him is a weird fit, but Ivy has really, good talent. Jalen Duren is a lot of fun, but they really need help everywhere also under those same margins. And I feel weird because I don't want to give them another player who cannot shoot. That they have so many guys who can't spread the floor. But with that said, I feel like I'm going to go with Montas. Montas Buzelis, coming out of high school, was one of the highest rated recruits. People think that he's actually from Europe based on his name. His parents were both Latvian ballers over there. I believe both of them played for their respective world teams. But he's actually born and raised in Chicago. He's got a really cool, fun energy swagger. He reminds me a lot of Jaren Jackson Jr. coming up. He just has this real fun attitude, and he has this mentality of, where he wants to try everybody. When there was all these rumors about Zachary Richeche going 1, he came out on Twitter and said, let's play for it. So to me, I love that mentality and that confidence. It's infectious. On top of that, he tested extremely well at the combine. I think his balance is up 5 or 6 inches from his last year in high school. His shot did not come along in the G League, but I want to say nobody's shot ever works in the G League on that team. Almost every of us. So I'm not sure if it's that system or just how things work, but I feel like nobody ever shoots well on that team. He shot well in high school, so I feel like that'll get over the hump. He has great instincts on defense. He has, we talked a little bit about this, me and Chip, and that he has almost like a Andre Kirilenko style body type where he's 6'9", 6'10", he's wiry, he's really long. So if he can put his hat on defense first and then work his way into understanding his spots on offense, because he has a lot of potential on that end, but he gets himself into trouble. Having a person like Cade Cunningham to set the table for him, I think would be a huge luxury for him. And for him to just be like that ancillary piece that just runs the break and dunks on people like and blocks shots. I think he has a lot of potential. He was the top pick for a while on mock drafts until like the last 4 or 5 months or so, or I guess until like last summer. So I think that the Pistons need a really good swing, pick here, and his potential is really good.
I love it, and I think like if he shoots the way that some people expected him to shoot in the G League, and really the way that he shot kind of in high school and coming up through AAU, then he's got a real chance to be a really good player. So, just another good talent collection there for the Pistons. I'm a fan.
All right, number 6. I believe this is the Hornets, right?
This is Charlotte, yeah. I kind of struggle what to do with them because I don't know that they quote unquote need a ton. It's weird. They just need good players, you feel good about their point guard as long as LaMelo stays healthy. They've got a really fun young wing and Brandon Miller, and it seems like as long as he can stay healthy, they really like Mark Williams too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a guy that LaMelo can throw lobs to, and that's Ron Holland from the G League Ignite. So Ron Holland is one of my favorite guys in this class. I currently have him ranked number 1. I just think that Ron is the type of prospect that you take a swing on because the athleticism's there, the mentality's there, the way he plays the game, the way he approaches defense, just truly a dog, in every sense of the term. I think people got turned off by the shot. And what I would tell you is that he's definitely developing as a wing because you look back at his prep career in Texas, basically played power forward. And then he goes to the G League Ignite, plays on the wing, was not the best constructed team. He had a very high usage, something that he will not have in the NBA. And so I'm not here to tell you that the shot is a guarantee to get a lot better, but some of the indicators are pretty good. Shot over 70% from the line, has decent touch, and he's just not going to be playing that role where he's asked to be the primary creator like he was at times for the G League Ignite. So I think you kind of take him into an off-ball role, something that we've seen, Miles Bridges thrive in a role like that there already. And I think with the team construction, it's kind of the perfect mix of fits a need for what makes sense with their core with LaMelo, Mark Williams, Brandon Miller, and also best talent available on the board. So that's where I'm going to go. Ron Holland at 6.
I'm also a huge fan of Holland. He's been near my either 1 or 2 or 3 for like 6 months now. I look at him and I've always told you I would rather have to tell a guy to calm down than to ramp it up. And he is that. He's very much, he's always got his motor going. He's ready to go out there. I mean, he has that Marcus Smart type of energy that I love. He has a great personality. One of the things that I like to do in my spare time is watch specific interviews because I feel like how players answer questions, how they respond to watching film of themselves also talks a lot about them and their character in terms of how they kind of understand basketball a little bit. So, but he gave a really great interview with Kevin O'Connor. And I feel like his shot is a little bit. It's like with like Matos. I think it's a little bit like overblown. I feel like he'll be like a low 30s guy, which is not great, but it'll be respectable enough. I see his floor as maybe like a Gerald Wallace type, as just this small forward bruiser, awesome slasher who can just jump over anybody. He'll take any assignment on defense. I think he has a great floor, and there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be. In 3-4 years, probably like a player that folks are like, how did he fall to 8, or 10 or something or whatever, he seems like an obvious talent to me.
All right. So what we got here? Portland?
Yeah, Portland at 7 here. After hearing all the reports and watching some videos from Portland, fans and stuff and reading some stuff, I feel like I don't know if I would do this necessarily, but it looks like that's where their franchise is kind of like, trending right now. So with the 7th pick, I'm going to take the giant from UConn here and Donovan Clingan. For all of my issues with Donovan, he is still a great prospect. You don't find guys that are 7'3" with giant wingspans who can put up the combine metrics that he was able to do. He's only 20 years old. He's able to keep off weight. He moves well. He's got natural instincts in that drop style on defense that any team would gladly take. He is working on his shot from distance, but I don't think that's even going to be like a real metric in his first probably like in 4 or 5 years. But if it's something that he can add later, almost like a Brook Lopez, then that'll add obviously like a tenure to his overall career. He's just going to be like a really safe pick. You look at Portland. I'm not a big fan of Ayton ever since he just kind of hasn't hit his marks in Phoenix. He called out to work because it was icy on the roads in Portland, which is nuts to me. And then you've got Robert Williams, who continues to be hurt. And so Donovan could easily come in, play off the bench his first year there. As soon as one of those guys gets injured, slot right in, and then probably never lose that spot again. I think Portland needs really smart, safe players, and I don't think there's anybody that is safer than him.
I love it. I hate it for Portland fans because, or at least the Portland front office, because they just paid, DeAndre Ayton $100+ million. But hey, I'm with you. I think that at some point you get into the sunk cost fallacy, right? You just have to cut bait when it's not working. And I think that Donovan Clingan makes a ton of sense with what they're building there with some of the guards and wings they have already in place. So, you talk about like some of the defensive concerns, and Clingan's going to cover a lot of that stuff up, man. He is a giant human being. One thing that I think gets lost when talking about Clingan is just how large he is. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were just talking about him and Steven Adams, and at one point I had to look at this person. I was like, you realize Donovan Clingan is 3 full inches taller than Steven Adams. Like, that is not an insignificant height difference. He is a giant. So excited. That's a really fun young core that Portland would have if this is the pick they take.
And I mean, like, if you can have any of Steven Adams' workout ethic, because Adams genuinely likes to go to the gym and lift weights. Right. I mean, like when he got traded here, while he was doing his walkthrough, he walked into the gym and started doing curls. So if Donovan can get that type of professional attitude of his body is his money, and he adds like actual strong weight, I think he can be very, very good in this league.
Right. All right, so we got San Antonio up again. 2 picks for the Spurs.
You took Castle at pick 4 here. So we still got pick 35 after this, but pick 8.
Yeah, so I think I am going to stop the slide for a guy that early on for me had a chance to be the number 1 player in this class. I felt like he kind of dropped off as the year went on, but turns out he had a knee injury that was more serious than we thought. So I'm going to take Nikola Topic from Mega. He's from Serbia, but plays for Mega currently as a team. So Topic is a very big guard. We talked about him, not having the 7-foot wingspan that was rumored, but he's still 6'5" with a 6'6" wingspan. That's a big point guard. And I think that this guy is a legitimate advantage creator and someone where if you can commit to the pick and roll, pick and pop, then he's going to be able to find guys and he's going to be able to get in the point and create advantages for his teammates. And so I just like adding as many of those guys on my roster as I can, especially when you're the Spurs and you do not have a really established point guard at all. And I do not really concern myself with how does he fit with Castle, because both of these are both very tall guys who should be able to guard 1s and 2s at a minimum and probably a good amount of 3s too. So defensively, it's really not that big of a concern. But yeah, I'm just going to keep giving creators to take some of the burden on. I'm going to start taking some of that off of Wemby and give them one of my favorite creators in this draft, and Topic.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you how you thought he fit, but I mean, honestly, I like this approach. It's almost like a buckshot approach, where you take two high level guard prospects and just hope that one of them hits. I mean, like both of them have great size. Both of them have really cool intangibles that most players don't have. So, I mean, I would hate for both of them to be good because they're also in a Western Conference with Wembanyama. But yeah, I mean, like I can totally get behind this. So pick 9 is the Grizzlies. I want to bring you onto the floor here to help me talk, like kind of like through this pick process here. How the board has fallen. I don't think Rob Dillingham, while I like his game and I think he'll be a solid player, I don't think he fits here. And even on the attitude of take the best player available, I still don't think I would take Rob. I can see people talking about Dalton Connect. He's 23. He's more of like a finished product. He could come in immediately, give you a guy who's 6'6", plays that 2-3 spot, hits a bunch of threes. Okay, and then that could let you move off of like a Luke Kennard or something. I could see them maybe swinging a little bit, taking a Chichon Saloon here. He's been playing very well overseas. His metrics have been really good. People really think his potential is next level, but if the Grizzlies want to get a piece here that can maybe help a little bit in that 10-man rotation, I don't think he's ready yet, to do that. Cody Williams, I've kind of cooled on a little bit. He's more of a guard. I was hoping he would be more of like a 3-4, around like 6'9" or so, but so he wasn't as big as I thought. He shot well, but on such a low volume, you don't really trust it at this point. I love Devin Carter, but I feel like this is kind of a reach for him here. Who are some people that you think might be like a pretty good spot here?
Yeah, the board has fallen a little unfavorably, I would say, for the Grizzlies. Obviously, Rob Dillingham would be my best available guy, but I completely understand, like, from a fit perspective, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. The next guy on my board would be Isaiah Collier, who I actually think would fit better just because he's quite a bit bigger than than Dillingham. And he could play with Ja and he could play with Bane. And so I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you want to get crazy, the third guy on just my personal board is Deron Holmes, who I think makes a lot of sense. But I think that the comments would destroy us for taking a guy like Deron Holmes at 9. So if I was making this pick with how the board's fallen, I probably just take Cody Williams or Rob Dillingham. But man, this is tough. I'm glad that I gave you the odds because you have to make the call.
So if this was me making the pick and I wasn't basing it on like team need or anything, I really like Devin Carter. Cody Williams has good potential. We've talked about Ware as well. I feel like he's slowly moving up boards because he's such an athletic big. I wouldn't mind him being here. I also like Holmes. But then you can always argue to like trade back or something, right? The guys like that are targets. Just based on Grizzlies' need and things of that nature and kind of like how they've done things, I'm going to go with Dalton. Dalton is a older prospect, but with that comes a lot of pros. He already has a really good base of how to play the game. He has great size. He's more athletic than he looks. His defense is not great, but it's not so bad that he's going to get burned every other play, so that he's going to be able to actually give you good minutes. He's already a 3-level scorer. He shoots at a great clip from 3. He can get to the rack. He plays with great energy, and I feel like he could come in from day one and be a guy that could just bomb it from outside. He could play that 2 or that 3 or maybe the 4 on against teams that are kind of running that those lineups around 6'6" or 6'7" at their 4 spots. I think he's a really safe pick. That said, I feel like if the board fell this way, the Grizzlies would trade out. But if they were forced to make a pick here and that person had to be in their rotation, I would go with Dalton.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm a little bit lower on Connect than
Yeah.
this, just personally. I think he's going to be a perfectly fine NBA player. But what causes me the most amount of concern is just how old he is. You
Yeah.
go look back at guys who are his age drafted in the lottery, or really, frankly, just drafted in the first round, and it's a mixed bag with, frankly, not a lot of high end hits. So, yeah, I would not expect him to be like a starter or anything. But you talk about a guy who could just come in and get you playoff minutes from year one and be in a
Yeah.
rotation. He can do that. So that makes a ton of sense from that standpoint.
Yeah, so I mean, like I'm saying, I would not take Dalton Connect, but I think if this is the way things fell, and that they were forced to make this pick, and that pick had to be a person to give them 15 minutes a night, I think that he is the most equipped of these players here.
I completely I totally get it. So
Number
right,
10, the Jazz.
The Jazz. Okay. Yeah, I am somewhat tempted to take Rob Dillingham here.
Yeah, right. I mean, it looks perfect here.
Yeah. My only issue there is they took Keontae George, and I just don't know that you can play Keontae George and Rob Dillingham together. I think you somewhat run into problems like, when you're thinking it out with the Grizzlies, right? So I'm going to take someone that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think he's going to go this high, and that's Tijan Salon from France. So we'll have our third French guy go in the top 10. So I think the sell with Tijan Salon is I think when I started to view him as more of a power forward who possibly could play some wing as opposed to a wing, power forward hybrid, I started to understand the sell a little bit because he tries really hard. Like, you cannot knock the guy's effort. Like, one thing with me is I just always appreciate someone who is his motor's constantly running, constantly trying on both ends, and he does that. And I think as his skills develop, you can kind of see him as like the dunker spot guy, providing some vertical spacing, a lob threat, and a guy who can defend. So he's another one of these kind of like big, long guys that the Jazz tend to like, as they build around, Lauri Markkanen and try to fill out the roster with him. I think that he can kind of do some of the like junkyard dirty stuff early in his career, and then you just see where his game develops from there. So we'll give him Tijan Salon as three French guys go in the top 10.
Right. Yeah, I'm really excited for the Olympics because there's so many stacked teams now. I mean, like French is the French national teams. I mean, like them. Canada's great. Spain's always really good. So I mean, like it's gonna be like a really, really fun summer. What's a player that you think Saloon compares to most?
Interesting. Man, let me think. That's a good question.
Yeah, because I look at him. I'm just not sure.
Could it be PJ Washington? Like, could he, something like that, kind of the way he plays for Dallas? Like, I don't think he's that good. If I thought he was PJ Washington, I'd have him a lot higher. But like this dunker spot, big, strong, athletic guy, plays defense, grabs rebounds, and we'll see how the shot develops. But, just kind of a guy who hangs around the baskets, looks for putbacks. If someone helps off him, he's there for a lob. He can finish around the rim. I think that's kind of his role early on, and then you just see how his game develops after that.
Yeah, I think I had him fall into 22 last time to the Bucks, but like his stock is so high now, it's just not going to happen. Let's see here. So we got the Bulls, which are in a really weird spot. I always feel like they could easily blow things up, but they always try to retool, and then they're just an average to below average squad. I love Kobe White. Coming out of college, he was a great smile, great energy on the court, and it's really cool to see him put it together after like a few years and really have a great year. That said, it's like, do you view Kobe White as more of a 2 than a 1, or like, would you think that he's their 1 for the next 5 years, or what?
I think he's probably their 1, right? But he's so big that I think you could play a smaller guard with him. One thing I will note is it has been reported in the last week or so that Devin Carter potentially has a promise in the lottery, and a lot of people have focused on the Bulls as the team that promised him. And to be honest with you, a Devin Carter, Kobe White backcourt is really nice. Like, they complement each other very well, because Carter kind of does all the dirty work, the defense stuff. He can take the best guard, and then Kobe White takes the scoring load off of Devin Carter. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rob Dillingham, obviously, clearly best guy available. Cody Williams starting to slip a little bit. So, like, they actually, from a Bulls perspective, the board has fallen pretty nicely for them.
Yeah, I feel like you just came in like I took my thunder. I was definitely going to go with Devin Carter.
Sorry.
You're good. Yeah, so Carter to me is a guy that was playing at a smaller school and just didn't get a lot of buzz early on, and then all of a sudden in the draft and doing things now, like folks are like, oh my God, like this Carter guy's really good. And it's like, yeah, he's been good the whole time. His dad played in the league. He has a lot of really great built-in fundamentals, really smart. His game is high energy efficiency. He got his shot going in his last year, and on the ratio of the clip, it looks like it could be real. He took, I believe, over like 200 threes or something or whatever, and he hit. I mean, it's a funky shot, but it's really good. He's 6'4", in shoes, so he can play both spots. I think that he's a Bulls guy. I had him fall into the Heat last time, but I don't think he falls that far this time. But I think Carter's one of those guys that I see. I'm not saying he's Halliburton, but I see a guy that is just going to be like an obvious hit. He's in my obvious my guys list. It's like him and Tristan da Silva and like Jerron Holmes. I think all three of those guys obviously are good. That they're going to be really good selections.
Yeah, someone on Twitter the other day threw out, who's going to be in the next class the guy that's like the Christian Brown or the oh my gosh, the center for the Mavs who's playing Derek Lively. Like, who's going to be the rookie? Yeah, who's going to be the rookie that helps in the playoffs? And my immediate reaction was Devin Carter. Like, I think this guy can play in a playoff game next season. So, huge fan. Really like that pick. OKC.
Thunder here, who I feel like you have to take Cody Williams probably since his brother plays there, so
That's true. I feel like I'm going to disappoint Jalen and make him mad because evil Sam Presti is rubbing his hands together that Rob Dillingham has fallen this far.
That's fair.
He is not. That's who I'm taking. I'm taking Rob Dillingham. So he's not the most OKC pick, frankly, because he's very small. Like, OKC typically likes positional size, but at some point you just have to go best player available. And you talk about a team who can cover up his deficiencies in terms of his physical profile. There may not be a better one than Oklahoma City, just with the size they have at the guard and wing position. So clearly he can play next to SGA if you need him to. Otherwise, they kind of already have a guy similar in Isaiah Joe who comes off the bench and scores points for them. And I think that in time, that's what Rob Dillingham is probably going to be best at, this kind of change of pace, microwave bench bucket getter who has a really tight handle, can really create his own shot, and really good off-ball spotting up too. So if he plays with SGA, like, you can stick him on the wing, spot him up from three, and he's going to be able to knock him down at a really high clip. So if this is maybe the answer to the question, like, if you could give 2 inches of height to someone in this class, who would it be? It may be Dillingham, because if he was 6'3" or 6'4", I'd probably be comfortable taking him, like second or third, So anyways, huge fan, and just another talent addition for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was looking and I was like, well, they just took Casey Wallace. They don't really need a point, but it's like they don't really need anything. Like they've done such a good job of drafting the last 3 years. This is just like a luxury pick for them. And I think it's funny. I feel like Reed Shepherd, maybe his really great shooting stroke kind of like overshadowed Rob, because people don't realize that Rob was also like a really good shooter as well. So like, he can come in and also bang him, from like outside everything. So I would hate for Rob to fall this far because the Thunder don't need any more help. But yes, I agree. This would be like a really, like very strong pick for them. We got the Kings here, and I would think at this point they would be pretty mad, because I feel like maybe they were hoping for like, maybe Rob or, Devin Carter falling here. They really need I feel like anytime that Fox isn't on the court, they can't get into like any of their sets. It's a really weird lineup. Monk had a really great year here. Keegan Murray, Sabonis. I mean, Alex Len is old and not very good. I'm not really sure what fits, and that makes me want to take more of a safe pick. So I'm leaning towards Tristan da Silva, who can play both that 3-4 spot. I think he's just like a really safe, awesome pick for them. But Cody Williams falling here is also really interesting. I think before I might have had either Tyler Smith or Kyle Filipowski going here because I feel like that they need another multi-skilled big who could do a little bit more. I'm going to go with Tristan da Silva. Tristan is another more tenured player out of Colorado. He kind of is another almost like Devin Carter, where people didn't really have his name in that top 20 range until after the March Madness and stuff. But he is a do-it-all forward, 6'9". Really good length. He can hit threes. He can score in the paint. He can rebound, facilitate. He plays hard on defense. He's the guy that that when you put him out there, he's going to play in his role, and then he's going to give you more. It's a little bit like Vince Williams Jr. for the Grizzlies, last year, who just came in and just did anything asked of him. I mean, like his defense isn't obviously as good as Vince's, but I think his offensive package is probably better than Vince's overall. I think that the Kings need solid players overall and not just swings here. They had a really great year 2 years ago and then fell back when they had a reasonably healthy year. So I think that's very, harsh for them to not see things really come together. I think he could also replace Malik Monk if he is lost to free agency.
Yeah, I like Tristan da Silva, especially to a team that wants to go ahead and try to win. And I think that he's, again, another guy that's pretty ready to come in and give you real minutes. And he makes a lot of sense with their roster construction, too. So, fun fact, too, he has a brother who was freaking awesome, and Oscar da Silva. And the only reason I know that is because the Grizzlies drafted Zaire Williams, and I had to watch all those awful Stanford games. And by far the best player was Tristan's brother, Oscar da Silva. So shout out to the da Silva family for making those Stanford games somewhat watchable.
All right, Portland's back on the clock here. We took Donovan at 7. They're now at 14.
Yeah, so my highest rated guy is Isaiah Collier, but with who they have on the team, that just doesn't make a ton of sense. So we're going to take Cody Williams. We're going to let that slide go ahead and stop. I think that, with Portland, you end up with Klingon and Cody Williams. You've got to be pretty dang happy with the way that turned out. I think Cody, obviously, really fun, exciting prospect. Just when you talk about the size, like he's young, big player, finished at an incredibly high rate around the basket, shot from three very well. Just really efficient shooting numbers, frankly. He's got a long way to go in terms of his frame filling out. Fell off kind of towards the second half of the season due to an ankle injury. But at this point, you can take a swing on a guy that has obviously an NBA pedigree with his brother and just hope that his body continues to fill out as he gets going. And then the ankle injury is obviously not something that lingers throughout. But yeah, maybe in the top 10, I'm a little wary of Cody Williams, but at the end of the lottery here, I've got no problem with it. I think this is a really nice pick and really good fit for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Blazers are kind of like in this weird, I would say it's like a log jam, but I feel like that they have a lot of guys who do the exact same thing, and they're all kind of sized the exact same. Williams can come in; he can easily play in that 3 spot. Then slide Sharp back to the 2, and then maybe trade Simons. Because I feel like they kind of. There's too much redundancy there, and I feel like Cody adds different aspects. He also, I feel like he does a lot of things really well. It was a player that both of us were high on early in the college year, and then he didn't really blow up, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, and then he just never got back to where he's supposed to be. So his stock is really weird. If he's anything like his brother, he'll be a steal. But we'll just have to see how it goes. All right, we've got, I believe that was the Heat here. Yeah, the Heat,
Miami
which which before I think I had Carter going here last time. Man, they're in such a weird spot. I feel like the Heat are always on the cusp of either lottery or finals. I don't know, it's very weird. Terry Rozier didn't really work out for them. Jimmy Butler now might want to trade out. It's everything's weird here. I feel like they need help in a few ways. I'm going to go with Isaiah Collier. I know that's your boy. I feel like he fills a few roles for them. Collier, unfortunately he played next to Bronny James, who got way too much attention. Collier, quietly was really awesome all year. He's super crafty, plays hard on defense. He's not quite as big as we were hoping. I think originally he was like 6'4", 6'5" in shoes, and he's about maybe like 6'3" or so, which is not a big deal. It limits you a little bit in terms of where he can maybe be placed, but he can make buckets. He's a lot of fun. He's just overall a really great potential pick. Coming out of college, I think falling here to the Heat would be awesome for him. In that factory of with Spoelstra and how they take young talent and then just cultivate it and make it, and then maximize on those guys. Him next to Tyler Hero and Bam could be a lot of fun, and also Jaime Jaquez. So I'm sure that you have a lot more to say about Isaiah here, but I think he's a really good fit there.
Yeah, I feel like the Breaking Bad thing where it's like they can't keep getting away with this. Like the Miami Heat, they're just so good at drafting. And I have Isaiah Collier 5 on my personal board. He is this just tank of a point guard who you cannot keep out of the paint. And he's good at finishing, and he's an excellent passer. For some reason, I feel like his passing is not talked about as one of the best skills in this class, but it is. He's a really impressive passer. Played on just a funky USC team that really wasn't constructed very well. The coach got fired, but he still was a productive player and got better as the season went along. So, huge fan. The Heat do it again. This would be a great spot for Isaiah Collier.
16, we got the Sixers too. I assume that they probably trade this pick, but in this weird world, they're taking a pick here. I think last time I had Tristan De Silva, but yeah.
So, this is hard. I'll be totally honest with you, because I feel like my board certainly has kind of fallen off in terms of obvious guys who are there. Deron Holmes is my highest ranked guy now. I don't know that he makes a ton of sense with them. So I think I'm going to take Johnny Furphy from Kansas for them. I was kind of going back and forth on whether I wanted to take him or Jared McCain from Duke. I ultimately landed on Furphy. Furphy's a guy who he had a lot of buzz early on, had some really big games kind of around December, January, and then it tailed off a little bit. But I've gone back and watched. I really like his defensive activity. I just think he cares a lot about defense and tries, and I think he's incredibly aware of where he's supposed to be at all times. Decent athlete, not great, pretty average when you talk about a wing athlete, so not bad or anything. But really the sell for him is his team defense and then obviously the shot. And you're getting a guy who's tall, who should be able to guard threes without issue, should be able to guard maybe some twos. And with time, as he continues to add size, potentially even shift down and guard some fours. But really the name of the game here for Philly is just getting more shooters and more space for Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to operate, and that's what they get here with Johnny Furphy.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know a lot about Furphy. He wasn't featured early on in the year. I feel like they had some injuries, and then he kind of got pushed a little bit more towards the end. He shows a lot of really great intangibles, potentials, and you talked about his shot and everything. I just don't know enough about him, and I feel like his range is so huge. I feel like he could go 15 to 30. It's such a wide margin because he has potential, but he didn't do enough explosive things in college, I think, to get his buzz strong enough to be a lock in that top 20. You mentioned Holmes. I could see Holmes going here. They're about to lose Harris on that big deal. They need really smart players early on. I think Holmes, 6'10", awesome. He'll definitely be somebody that we'll talk about later, but I could also see him going here.
But then he might take minutes from my guy Paul Reed, and I would hate that. I don't want Paul Reed to lose his minutes.
The Lakers will be on the clock at 17. The Pelicans have deferred that pick, which I think most of us assumed, just considering that the draft next year should be better, and the Lakers are probably not going to be very good that year either. If they keep this pick, they need help in so many ways. I feel like
Zach Edey.
I know that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm thinking. I mean, I could see that. I could see Misi here as well. Kafilipowski. I feel like they need a good big, a person that can come in, give Davis minutes, and just for fun. Let's take Zach Edey here at 17.
Let's go.
So I've been a little outspoken about how I wouldn't take Zach Edey at 9, but that doesn't mean I think he doesn't have value. You don't find traits of a guy that is 6'4", 280 pounds, has a monster wingspan, can endurance-wise run 36 minutes a night or 40 minutes a night, and have people lean on him the whole game. Like that is. It's something that I didn't even think about until Chip had at some point talked about it, and I was like, yeah, that's a really great point. He has great touch from the free throw line, so he's a person that you can't really foul. He's super efficient at the basket. He's good at those tall guy blocks. Defense. Most guys are not good at defense on the wing that are big anyways. I feel like with him and Anthony Davis, he probably wouldn't have to do a lot in that field. But he's a person that would clog the paint, would be a target for James, down low. I think he's a fun pick and would be like a really solid player for them.
Yeah, he's a guy that I've kind of done a 180 on, where he's an elite rebounder, an elite screen setter, and he's got like outlier elite conditioning. And I think with those three things, coupled with the fact that he's just one of the largest humans on planet Earth, he should at least be able to be a role player in the NBA. Now, kind of his upside is tied to how much does, the overall offensive game develop in terms of, we know he can score in the post, but is he going to be able to pass out of double teams? Is he going to be able to pass out of short roll on the pick and roll? Stuff like that. So we'll see kind of where the ceiling ultimately lands for him, but I buy him as a role player in the NBA for, a good amount of years, assuming that he stays healthy.
Yeah, I feel like if he can just develop a strong pick and pop game, and not even having to hit from three, if he can be like just a guy that sets massive screens, guys get trapped on him, and then people pass back out to him around that 18-foot range, he would add so much more value. But yeah, I feel like he'll be like a really good safe guy as well. After the Lakers, we were at pick 18, which I believe are the Orlando Magic. Where are you thinking for them?
Yeah, Orlando Magic, I think that they would love for one of the point guards to slip to them, which it kind of seems like is their biggest need. But we're going to take the highest guy on the board there, Jacoby Walter from Baylor. So Jacoby Walter, another, kind of a theoretical shooter. He had, kind of up and down season at Baylor. But I think you can see kind of the outline of what you want in terms of a wing who's strong, can shoot, and I think is going to be in a good spot where they've already got, Paolo Banchero, they've got Franz Wagner. Those two guys are going to handle a lot of the creation burden, and you can stick Jacoby Walter either in the corner or on the wing, and he's going to be able to space the floor early on. And then as he continues to develop, I think he can kind of grow with that core and continue to, add different elements to his game in terms of attacking closeouts, different things like that. So decent defender too. I'm not the world's biggest fan, especially when you talk about, somebody that's mocked at times in the lottery. But here to a playoff team where he can play a very defined role early on in his career, I think it makes some sense.
Yeah, I feel like early on, Walter was a top 10 pick as somebody that I think in his first 10 games, you and I had talked about him, maybe being with the Grizzlies or something. And he kind of had some really funky moments where, he was showing his lack of foot speed, and then his shot wasn't super consistent. So it was like, if you're going to put your hat on the offensive end, it needs to be really good. I think, he adds a different dynamic than what they currently have, which is, they don't have that guard who can come in and just light it up. They have really solid guards who play really in their role with Suggs and guys like that. I mean, you could say maybe Cole Anthony at times, but I feel like Walter has more of that microwave, killer mentality, almost like a Jamal Crawford style than Cole Anthony does. I think that this is would be like really fun pick for them as well. We have the Raptors here, the Tankathon themselves that thought that losing 15 games in a row would land them a pick, and they end up not getting anything.
You love to see it. I love when tanking is not rewarded. You love to see it.
Yeah. I feel like they need a lot of stuff. I like the addition of RJ Barrett to Scotty Barnes. It's weird to think that for some reason Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Pascal just didn't work when they're three of the most versatile, wings in the entire league. It's very strange. At this point, I'm leaning on two players. I guess I'll go with my gut here. I'm going to go with Bub Carrington.
Okay.
I love everything about Bub's game. He is a dog, just in every sense of the word. He has great size. At that 6'4", 6'5", he can play both guard spots. He's really strong on the ball. He's also a really great rebounder, man. He gets in there and he'll take an elbow. And I feel like, the Raptors need somebody that is willing to get punched in the mouth every night to win. And that's what Bub's going to do. He's like a really great scorer in the paint. He's not a great three-point shooter, but I feel like if he is in a more reduced role where he doesn't have to be that main guy, in that type of frame, I feel more confident in his shot from outside. I just think that he would bring a certain feature that they don't currently have, and I think he's a really fun fit next to RJ Barrett and Barnes.
Yeah, Bub's a special shot maker, man. The stuff that he does on threes and long twos is really impressive. And then he should be able to defend pretty well. He's a big guard. I get it. It makes sense. I'm a Bub Carrington guy.
Well, you're up at 20 here. Looks like the Cavaliers.
Yep. Got the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we're going to take a player that I think is going to signal a future move, and that is Yves Missi from Baylor. I think that there's a lot of rumors now that, it's possible Jared Allen isn't back with the team. And so what I'm thinking about, what does a team like Cleveland need to pair with Evan Mobley and then hopefully for them, Donovan Mitchell? I think it's Yves Missi and kind of his profile. It's a player profile that I am typically very, very much a fan of, where big, strong, physical, and a rim runner. Rim protector, dunks everything, set screens, rebounds, just completely understands who he is and plays to that in the best possible way. And he doesn't need the ball on offense to be effective. He's perfectly happy just doing all the other stuff. And I think that we talk about a team that feels like they probably have their established stars. And then, possibly trading Jared Allen. He makes a ton of sense with the rest of that roster.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a person that I had mentioned at 9 maybe for the Grizzlies. His intangibles are something that you can't, just teach. He's incredibly athletic. His wingspan is nutty. I think it's 7'5" or something or whatever. It's just his arms are stupid. He's got a great motor. His instincts on defense. He's almost like Clint Capella, I want to say, except bigger, and he's young enough that you could instill other offensive traits, in him. I feel like if he could get to where he's really good at that slip screen, he could add almost in terms of how Brandon Clark, does that, where he'll fake the screen, get the ball, and then his float game is awesome. If he could add some kind of move in that 10 to 15 foot range, I think it really would open up everything for him. But even if the Cavaliers don't lose Jared Allen, I mean, adding Yves Missi would be huge. I mean, because they desperately needed another big once Allen went down, and if they'd had Missi to be next to Mobley, I mean, they most likely win that series, right? I mean, so that's what I think. Just in general, is a really good pick.
Yeah. All right. Who we got up here?
We got the Pelicans.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Man, I feel like it's obviously what they need. The experiment of CJ McCollum at the point guard needs to die. I don't understand why it was ever a thing. I mean, like, you're not playing, 2K here. They need a person who can get their team into their sets, can get the ball moving correctly. There are a few options here that I kind of want to go with, and I kind of want to get your opinion because I have a coin flip right now. I think Jared McCain obviously makes sense here. He can play both guard spots, really great shooter, smart overall player. I also really like Tyler Kolek. He is that veteran guard who's going to come in. He does everything. He passes the ball well. He plays defense. He's like another TJ McCollum, except different, So if it was you, which of those two players do you think that you would go?
Yeah, I think if you're just looking for the pure point guard, it would be Kolek. I think that Jared McCain may even be better in a CJ McCollum role where he's just kind of an undersized off-ball two. So I think Tyler Kolek would be, if you're just going pure point guard, that'd be the one I'd go with.
Man, it's so tough. I did, yeah. It's tough because it
is tough. Yeah.
I also like Deron Holmes as well. I feel like he's like an actual power forward that they don't have on their roster. Because they just put guys like Herb Jones and Zion in that spot, even or Trey Murphy, and it's like they're not real power forwards. They're just in that role. Man, it's tough. I'm gonna go with Tyler Kolek. This might be a little bit of a reach. Pelicans fans might get a little upset, but I think that they need more consistency. They're one of the most inconsistent teams, and it's because of their lack of dynamic play in the guard room. You've got a couple of guys that try. I mean, I love Jose. He's a lot of fun, but he's not a guy that you play 30 minutes a night and he's on the ball and he's getting teams into their sets and he's understanding how the other team's defenses are working. That they need a really smart adult on the ball there. I think Tyler Kolek, he had a great college career. He's got good size. He can make shots. He rebounds well. He passes the ball well. I think he averaged 9 assists a game in college this past year. He could come in. He could run. He could slow it down. He's almost like a Mike Conley a little bit, except not as athletic. I view him as this just really safe guard. It might not be the sexy pick. I think it fits.
Makes a ton of sense for what that team needs. So I'm with you. It's not sexy, but a guy that's an adult who gets them into their sets and can kind of who does not. He's not a scoring guy in the way that Jared McCain is, right? I don't know that McCain is one that's going to get you into the sets, and so I think that Kolek's going to be able to do that. So. All right, I've had enough. We're stopping the slide here. Deron Holmes called in at 22.
22, okay.
So Phoenix Suns end up with one of my favorite players in this class. He is currently, I believe I have him. Yeah, I got him 11th on my personal board. Deron Holmes is just awesome. I frankly was hoping that he would come out in this last draft the previous year, decided to go back to Dayton, and was just one of the best players in the country. I believe he has led the country in dunks, or at least among the leaders in dunks all 3 seasons at Dayton. Just shows you the type of athlete that he is. And yes, he played in a lower tier conference, but completely dominated it. Creates for himself a little bit. Genuine above the rim guy. I think he's a very, very smart basketball player. He can protect the rim. He's got the 7'1" plus wingspan. Kind of like a basketball weirdo in some ways. Of just I don't know exactly if he's a center, if he's a power forward, but what I know is I'm betting on that level of talent on both ends of the floor and going to figure all that stuff out later. So the Suns, I think, just need more good role players around, their stars, and I think that's what they're getting here.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the Suns got a Tyler Kolek. I think that also makes sense. Their team is so needed on the draft right now, or just cheap contracts, because they have sunk all their money into 3 guys, and their construction. It was so weird last year. People being like, "Oh, this team is great." It's what are you looking at? I mean, like their team is so lopsided. Like there's only talent here and then a little bit here. I love Holmes. I think he's great. As you mentioned, he's 6'10", awesome wingspan. He's got a really great personality as well. His three ball will be the next factor to really like unlocking his game. His shot is looked good in workouts. It's got a little bit of a pause. That it's going to be an issue for him to get that off in space, but I feel like he's a guy that you leave open, almost like Jerome Arthur. If you're like for anybody out there who like remembers him, in those corners he was really deadly. I feel like he can play on the ball. His handle is solid. He's not a bad playmaker. He'll get in the post and get rebounds. Just overall good player. It's definitely somebody that I knew would start moving up in the draft once all these workouts started.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we got
Phoenix,
the Bucks here.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, who just what a weird year. Started it off with such high hopes. They fired their coach after firing their other coach, and things are so weird there. They just need talent as well. This is probably the first spot that I could see maybe Zach Edey's floor being. I think that he probably fits there as well in terms of how they play. But they need a lot of stuff. They're old in certain spots. I'm going to go with Jared McCain here.
Okay.
A little bit in terms of how you spoke about a little bit earlier. He's a guy that can make shots. I think he can play next to Dame. He's not a true point guard, but he's definitely somebody that coming out of that system can be on the ball and get the ball to the right people. He plays defense. He's an okay rebounder, but his major talent is being able to shoot, and that team needs to add better players talent-wise that can also shoot from outside. They have guys who can make shots, but they don't do much else, and they're liabilities. I feel like Jared is an obvious upgrade over like a few players could come in and give them 15 minutes, maybe more, and I would trust him in like a playoff setting.
So I'm not the biggest comparison guy because I think all these players are unique, but Jared McCain actually reminds me a little bit of Troy Daniels, how he was able to play in the playoffs, kind of like the shooting, like you literally cannot help off of this guy because if he gets an open look, he's going to make the shot. And that's kind of what I see Jared McCain, at least early on, as he continues to develop, hopefully some of the ball handling and the creation stuff. But just a microwave shooter, man. Like, makes a lot of sense for a team that have guys that are high usage creators where he can open up shots for them.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like, if you told me that, if you told Troy Daniels that, hey, we're going to give you 3 more inches, go back and play, he would have been a lot better player. His biggest issue was he was like 6 foot, he was a great shooter, but, he wasn't able to create for himself. I feel like Jared McCain, if he is, as solid as Troy Daniels, he was an awesome shooter. If he's him but larger, I think that would bode very well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, back-to-back Knicks picks.
Back-to-back Knicks. What are you thinking, I guess?
Okay.
We can kind of like both, like talk here a little bit. I think I last time I had Zach Edey and Holmes falling here, but our draft is not falling that way. So what are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, my original thought is, can we just find the guy whose name is the most difficult to pronounce so all the Knicks fans will boo it when it's called on draft night? But look, we'll be nice to our Knicks fans who are really good, by the way. Like, that Knicks team is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to think, like, my original thought was Kel'el Ware because he's got talent and he keeps slipping down. But I don't know if Kel'el Ware is like the best Tibbs guy. Although I don't know that there's a ton of like Tibbs guys worth taking in this range. We're going to go Kel'el Ware. We're just going to go ahead and take, one of the better players available.
I totally agree with that. I think that especially if the Knicks have a risk of losing Hartenstein, that Ware can come in and give them. So I mean, he doesn't do the same things, obviously, but adding another person of his size, his measurements, he was the top-rated athlete in the combine. Being able to pair him next to Robinson at times, I think is also like very good.
Yeah, just like when you watch it, you get why people really like him. I mean, he's really tall, he's really long, he catches lobs, he rebounds well, he protects the rim pretty well. Like he does a lot of really good stuff. I'm interested to see, like, I think, some of the concern is like the motor wasn't great at Oregon and stuff like that. And that, look, you and I, we don't get the luxury of, interviewing him or talking to his teammates. We have no insight on that, right? But you see the talent, and I think the talent at 24 is 100% worth taking at this point.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason why I'm not that low on him in terms of his motor is the fact that I think he gained like 20 pounds of muscle in the last 13, 14 months. So to me, a person who's getting in the gym and not only, gaining muscle because, people who play basketball, like you burn calories like crazy. It's hard to keep on weight. So for him to I think he went from, what was 200 to 220 or something or whatever, that to me shows a seriousness as well. And that and so I feel like he's going to be better motor wise than people think. Probably not as high up as I think he's going to be, but I think he's definitely worth the risk. I'm thinking for 25, they need another person who can make shots who's a little bit bigger than Dante DiVincenzo from outside. What do you think about Tyson here?
Oh, I like that. I'm a huge Jalen Tyson guy. I think we both are really high on him.
So I'll let you talk a little bit about Tyson in case people don't know how much about his game. Sorry.
Yeah, I almost think that he's kind of like a big guard. He's certainly got the size to play on the wing, but really high usage guy on a pretty bad Cal team. But good scorer, really solid athlete. Shot 36% from three, but again, he's another super high usage guy who just isn't going to play that style, and the NBA is going to ask to be more off ball, stuff like that. Solid defender, solid traits. There's a lot to like about him. I think he can handle the ball pretty well. And anytime you can get a guy that's his size that can play on or off ball, and you feel comfortable about him defensively, that's an NBA player. And so yeah, I'm in on Jalen Tyson.
Yeah, and I think in that system, it's a little bit slower as well. I think that kind of bodes well for his game. He's very crafty. He's not quite a three-level scorer because his shot is not as automatic, but he can definitely make him from out there. But he gets in the paint very easily. I think in that, and Tibbs could run him, a lot as well. And he gives them more size on the wing, which they don't really have right now. So I think that he would add a lot to their team, and them adding both these players. I think that just in general, they need more depth. And they were so beat up towards the end of the year that they just didn't have enough bodies to actually play and beat the Pacers.
Right.
All right. I think it would be you back on the board here with the Wizards at 26.
The Washington Wizards. Okay. We are. Man, this is tough. Trying to see who all we've got left here. So, Washington Wizards just need players, they need good players. So let's see, who are we going to give them? Because we're going to go. I've got my guy. We're going to go Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite. Tyler's a guy that really good size, 6'9", 220 plus, 7 foot plus wingspan. Really good shooter, a really nice stroke, solid athlete, can actually handle the ball a little bit, attacks closeouts. Defensively, I think he's got a little bit of work to do. But I think the sell here is just you get a really big knockdown jump shooter who I think is a really scalable type of player and can play with a lot of different kind of lineups. So I'm a Tyler Smith guy in this draft as well. I have him top 20 on my board. So that's where we're going to go.
I think I also have him in that top 20 range. I think last time I might have had him going to maybe the Kings or somebody. I forget exactly who it was. But no, I agree. I mean, Washington is another team that just needs talent in general. That team is put together poorly, and Tyler adds specific skills that they don't have, and he can he can hit shots. He can get to his spots on the floor. He's very fluid on offense, but it's like you said, he's not the biggest guy, so he's in that weird. Is he a 3 or a 4? It's like his defense isn't really great, so like you don't really trust him as a power forward. So it's definitely weird. He's not a bad shot blocker, so like there's some instincts there at least. But yeah, no, I think if they could land Tyler Smith and Reese Shea, then that's a pretty solid draft.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're nearing the end here. We got 27. We had the Timberwolves, who I think last time I took Tyler Kolek here, because I feel like whenever Mike Conley leaves the game, they just had issues in general. Man, this is tough because it's like they don't really need anything specific. Their depth is really good. I feel like maybe just taking maybe like the best guy here could be what's needed more. Man, because like I like Ryan Dunn. I just don't. I mean, like that kind of makes sense there for them because they need like a pure dog on defense. He really could have helped versus the Mavs, but I just don't know if that fits overall what they do. I'm not a big Keyshawn George guy. I'm sure that maybe you would view him as maybe like a better fit. I could see Kyle Filipowski also going here and having like another like a stretch big guy. And I honestly I don't know a lot about Clinton, so I don't feel comfortable going that way. I'm just gonna take the swing. I'll go with Filipowski here at 27. I think that's a pretty good safe spot for him. Kyle it's weird because I feel like last year he probably gets drafted a little bit higher than he does this year, yet he went back to college and he actually added more to his game. His shot from three on the exact same amount of attempts rose like I think like 8.5%. So like he really found his stroke. His offensive game is really solid. You just don't know how much more he has to give. I mean, obviously he'll have natural progression, but it's like how much of his game is going to get that much better. I know that here people kind of say that he might be like a little bit better like Aldama, which is a person who's 7 foot, can put the ball on the ground, can pass a little bit, can hit threes. I think in that setting, you see a person like a Naj Reid who's been awesome for them off the bench. Adding Kyle Filipowski next to him could really like open up things on both ends. His defense is not great, but there's enough defense there that I think that he wouldn't get abused too much. What do you think about Kyle to the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Filipowski when you talk about him in the lottery, but here I think he makes sense. Like good ball mover, obviously potential to be a really good shooter as well. Just does a lot of the like role guy stuff, and so for a team that again has aspirations of winning a title, I think he makes sense.
All right, cool. We're nearing the end here. We're at pick 28, the Denver Nuggets. What do you think that they need here, man?
Okay, so we're going to take A.J. Mitchell from UC Santa Barbara. I did not send you him in my second round guys that I like specifically because I think that he's going to go first round. A point guard who is a legitimate 6'4.5", maybe 6'5" when he puts shoes on, and just someone you literally cannot stop from getting to the rim, and finishes at an incredibly high clip. I think he's a scorer more than a shooter, although I think that he's got some good shooting indicators. Shot, over 37% from three-point range this year and shot well into the 80s on free throws. But I think when you talk about, like, I saw someone compare him to Kobe White. I think that makes some sense as well. Older prospect. He's 22 years old or will be on draft day. And I think that's what the Nuggets are looking for, guys who are ready to step in and play right now. And, with the way that Jamal Murray's injury history has gone, I'm not saying that he can step in and give you exactly what Murray does, but there is a little bit of overlap to their game. And I think in time he can be a good backup for them, also with the size to be able to possibly play with Murray.
Yeah, I think last time I had Dylan Jones mocked here, and I agree. They need another on-ball player who can play make. Whenever Murray leaves the game, they get so bogged down, and Jokic has to do so much that he just gets attacked, and then other people cannot create on their own. Like you've got Reggie Jackson who can create, but he doesn't do anything else, and then everybody else needs players to get their like shots off. So I think like AJ makes a lot of sense. A person who could come in, keep that motor running, keep that rhythm, and then it would allow them to maybe play Murray less minutes actually, which could hopefully give him less wear and tear on the year. And yeah, it's weird that like here recently, I think O'Connor had him going like 57 to the Grizzlies, and I'm like, there's no way that he falls that far. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Especially with like guys like Hunter Salas, falling out, and a few others. I feel like that really moves up these players as well. I think him here makes a lot of sense. All right, we've got 29. We've got the Jazz. They took Saloon last time. You took him with the 10th pick. This is another weird feeling because it's like the Jazz on the cusp of. They could blow it up, or they could, try to take players, but that makes sense. They're in a very weird spot because they weren't very good last year, but they got big contracts. They're about to have to pay more marketing. It's like it's weird. So I think, man, I don't want to annoy you, but I think I might take one of your guys that you sent me for round 2. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Baylor Sharman. Baylor is an older guard, plays out of Creighton. He's actually one of 2 players I think could go in the top 40 with like Trey Alexander. Baylor gives an immediate spot where he can come in, he can hit shots from long range. He can, play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He's got great size at 6'7". He's not a terrible athlete, but he's not a great athlete. He kind of reminds me of maybe like if John Conchar was like 6'7" or so. Like he just does a lot of really smart things on the court. I think he was like the first player in like 50 years to have a triple double for them. It was really cool. So I think he can come over the Jazz, immediately have a role for them, give them 20 minutes a night, could put, at least like, 4 or 5, like shots up from, from 3 per game. To me, they just need better floor level talent as well if they're wanting to stay the course and maybe make a run at the playoffs.
Yeah, big fan. I think definitely the sell starts with the jump shot. I think that he's a guy who should be able to come in and get his shot off, off ball anytime he wants, and should be able to carve out a role in his league and just a shooter. But then you talk about all the ancillary skills. I think he's a really good rebounder for his size as well. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I think he's going to be able to stick in the league, and that's kind of what you're looking for this late in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. It's like man, he had said something like, I don't know if his dad had like bribed him into like rebounding or something. I think he said that when he was younger, his dad gave him like $1 for like every rebound or something. So that was like his way of how when he was younger to like always go in the paint like and try and get rebounds and stuff. So pretty cool. Going to our last pick here in the draft, or at least in the first round with the Boston Celtics. What are you thinking?
All right, we're going to wrap it up with a truly one side of the floor prospect, and that is Ryan Dunn from Virginia. So Ryan Dunn is a very good athlete, borderline elite athlete, and just a special event creator, chaos creator on defense. Generates a lot of steals, a lot of blocks, great on ball, excellent in help. Has tremendous size, 6'7", almost a 7'2" wingspan. The offensive side is where I think he's going to have, a lot of struggles. I think he's going to have to kind of make his earnings on that side with offensive rebounds, cuts, lobs, stuff like that, because the development has got a long way to go on that side. But you look at, he could be a specialist defender that the Celtics use in the playoffs when they need him. And they are obviously a team that doesn't need a whole lot of stuff right now. So they just take someone who has an elite one side of the court, and then you just work with his offense and see where you can get it to. And who knows, you could end up with like a Matisse Thybulle or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's. Or maybe like a Tony Allen or something. He's another awesome athlete out of college, really great motor. It was weird. I feel like in college Tony played a little bit more on ball, and then he played more off. It was his strength. But Ryan Dunn, yeah, and he's done everything that he does everything that he can do, and then that's be awesome at defense. He's a great athlete. He's really smart. He does all the things. He just cannot score the ball. He just and I don't know if that's like a mental thing where he just doesn't view that as part of his role, or if he just literally is just not comfortable with his shot selections and sets and stuff. So if you can get even a little bit of offense in terms of like a really good, maybe like a slashing package. If you could hide him in spots to make like really strong cuts, it would help. But it's tough in this day and age where everybody needs to be able to shoot a little bit because it's just it hurts so much. But maybe he's so good on that end, it just doesn't matter. But like in the role you're talking about, where maybe you throw him out there and he goes at that. Like Luka Doncic or something, or whatever, and just like slows him down. Other players have been not as talented as him, and also have like 10 years career. So I don't see why that's not like a possibility for him. So that's our first round. Let's look at the board real quick. So it feels a lot of it's pretty chalk here with Alex Sarr, Reese Shea, Reed Shepard, Stephon Castle, Montes Buzelis, Ron Holland. We have Klingon at 7, and then Topic at 8. I still am mad at myself for taking Dalton Connect, but it makes sense a little bit here. I think Saloon is where things start to get pretty spicy. Him at 10 is fun. Carter to the Bulls is fun. Rob Dillingham falling to the Thunder is great. Tristan, 13 here. I feel like a lot of this is really cool. I feel like Heat fans would love Collier at 15 here. And then you've got, I feel like our last half is a more professional because taking people like Carrington and like Tyler Kolek and like Deron Holmes and I feel like those are the more sensible picks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of with you. The like 10 through 15 is a lot of fun, and then the thing is with this draft is like there's just no consensus really. And so, like, you and I could sit here and do 10 mock drafts, and none of them would look remotely the same, after pick 6 or 7, So it's tough, but, like, that's part of the fun because some years is fairly easy to predict. This year, not as much.
All right, so let's get into. We didn't have enough time to do a full 2 rounds, obviously, because this is taking forever. So just because we like to talk about players, but we wanted to give y'all 5 players. I stole one from Chip. I'm sorry. It just how the board fell. It made sense to me, and this is why Chip didn't want to give me his list beforehand because he knew that I was going to steal something from him. So I'll go first here. These are just 5 guys that I view could be really really good. Players to take in round 2 and make sure that I have this correctly slotted up here. Okay, great. All right, so number 1 for me is Dylan Jones. He's an older guard forward out of Weber State. I've talked in the past that he reminds me of like a Bonzi Wells type. He's just he just does a little bit of everything. His ability to hit those really fun skip passes is also really cool. It's not always a smart pass, but it's definitely fun. He's a bruiser in the paint. He can make shots. He plays through contact. He's just a smart player overall. I think somebody's going to get a really solid player there. My next up is Adembona. He's kind of like the opposite of Zach Edey. He's all defense almost. He's got this really great motor. He's an awesome athlete. He's smaller. It's going to be hard to figure out where he plays because he's probably a 5. But, he also, he tends to foul too much. But a guy that has like a 40-inch vertical in a 6'10" frame that's got great reach, great size, great, instance of defense, he's definitely going to give a team a really great project to work with. And I think he could be a player that could be somebody's, maybe like their third big or something, in like a few years. From there, I've got Jalen Bridges, who's a guard forward from Baylor, an older player. He's a prototypical 3-and-D wing. He shoots really well from beyond the arc. He gets after it on defense. I see him coming in from day one, also having a really great role where he just just kind of like fits in and can give you 25 minutes. Juan Nunez, for whatever reason, is not getting as much buzz as he used to get. He was this under 18 player from Spain. Everybody thought he was this next big European project, but his offensive game just never really took off. But he's a really great point guard. He's got great size. He's smart. He's playing in multiple really good systems overseas. His passing intangibles are great. I feel like he's just a really cool, prospect from Europe. He just signed with, I believe, FC. So I don't know if he can even come over. In a recent article or a Draft Express interview, he said that he's keeping his name in the draft. He feels as though teams know what he can do. So I don't know how big his contract is, but I would imagine he's a really good draft and stash person. And then finally, Kevin McCullough Jr., it just is probably the most adult in the room. He just does everything well. He plays on the ball, plays off the ball, plays defense. He can hit shots. He's older, but if you need a really safe guy who could come in, I could see a team looking to just have a cheap, good player could take him.
All right, so start with my five guys. Guy at the top here, Jonathan Mogbo, a guy that I was turned on to kind of late in the basketball season, just kind of, frankly, just doing some stats queries, and he's one that really pops off the page from a statistical standpoint. Then you watch him play, and for those who haven't seen him play, I think the best comparison I could say is it's like what Brandon Clark looked like in college, except he also dribbles the ball very well. Now, I don't think he is quite, the level of prospect that Clark was, just for different reasons. But I think he's got a chance to be a first-round guy. I'd be very comfortable taking him in the first round, honestly. I think the key thing for him is he's got a really long wingspan, standing reach over 9 feet. So shouldn't be a big deal for him, protecting the rim, playing some 5 as he needs to, but definitely a smaller guy, but tremendous athlete, had some of the most dunks in the NCAA last year. Truly a dominant player from San Francisco and just a ton of fun. Isaiah Crawford is a guy that when I redo my board will definitely make my top 20. And if you wanted to take him in the late lottery, I'd be okay with that. The closest thing we've seen to a Vince Williams type prospect since Vince. Really good defender, both on and off ball, creates a lot of steals, and then carried the load for them offensively. Didn't take a ton of threes. I think he was just under 100, but shot it at a really good clip. So good indicators that he will be a shooter. I think he's your classic 6'6", 3-and-D wing. And we know that, Grizzlies fans will know that obviously Vince Williams, a guy like that in the second round, has paid off for them. Baylor Shireman, we touched on already, good shooter, good rebounder. I think the sell there is really he's kind of going to be an off-ball scorer and shooter. Quick release, looked really good in some of the scrimmages at the Combine. So I could see him, really sticking in the league. Jamal Shead is smaller than I think you want your point guard to be in the modern age, but I don't think he's too short to play in the league. And I think that when you talk about trying to find the next TJ McConnell, from a statistical comparison of where TJ McConnell was when he was at Arizona and where Jamal Shead is at Houston, there's not a better, a more similar type prospect to McConnell than Jamal Shead in this draft. I do not see him jumping into the first round. That would surprise me. But you look at, kind of the guys like Deuce McBride, who's, carved out a really nice career with the Knicks. McConnell, obviously another one with the Pacers. These point guards, if they're good enough defensively and they can run a team offensively, then they're going to be able to play in the league. And I buy Jamal Shead as that. And then the last one is a guy who was a massive prospect coming out of high school into college in Phili Dante. Played a long time in Oregon, dealt with a number of injuries, but a really just strong, physically imposing, guy in the paint. Incredibly high steal rate for someone who plays a center position, also blocks a lot of shots. So creates a lot of turnover and havoc on the defensive end. And then also, on the offensive end, he's a bit raw, but I think he should be a lob threat, should be able to clean up the offensive glass, get some putbacks, good screen setter. Like, I buy him as kind of like the Yves Misi, Adem Bona, and Phili Dante. I think they're all, similar archetypal prospects. So those are my 5 guys. Any thoughts on them for you?
Yeah, I think I still feel bad about Baylor. Do you want to give me like another fit, guy or whatever, and then like I'll just take him out there?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. So I feel like Jamal is a guy that he's the type of guy that I want to succeed, but his size is such an issue. Like because he does everything right. He just wasn't born 6'4". It's like it's unfair.
Right.
Like he's like Rob is around the same build, maybe a little bit taller, but because he's so much more explosive, it gives his game a different angle to succeed in this league. And I feel like Jamal is going to have to do everything so much. It's going to be so much more work for him. And it's just such a tall task, but he obviously is really good. He's going to need to be in the right situation to show off how solid he is. So I mean, like he probably goes in that like G League route a little bit. It's like probably not like a two-way stash guy, but but I mean, the Grizzlies found Scottie Pippen Jr. On the Lakers trash sheet, and he's another player that in college did everything right. He just happens to be 6'1", but he was awesome here, and every time that he played, you're just like, why did the Lakers let him go? It makes no sense. He played his ass off on defense. He was athletic. He got the team going in sets. He can make shots from outside. I mean, like he did everything. So it was. So I could definitely see him making a spot in the league. It's just he's got to find his like quote unquote Grizzlies team, I guess.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited for this draft. Guys, let us know which picks that you were liking really into. Chip, do you have anything else lined up in the next couple of weeks in case people didn't get enough of you?
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll be on, a podcast here and there, but I'm fairly active on Twitter. I like to, kind of clip games as I go, just give my thoughts on them. Always open to a discussion. So at Chip Williams Jr. on Twitter, or X now.
X.
Yeah, just give me a shout, and I'd love to chat anything draft. And like I said, I'll be putting content out leading up to the draft, and then certainly through summer league.
Yeah, I'll definitely to be sure to add a lot of your specific links and socials, and then you had a podcast I think like a week ago, but I'll put that in here as well, so people can find those those talking points and stuff. Is there anybody that you think could move up in the first round? Is it just Ronnie James, or is there anybody that has actual NBA talent that could just from now until then that goes from round 2 in the 50s to maybe the late 20s?
Oh, interesting. I think that one guy who I was kind of interested in last year and ended up pulling out and going back overseas is Nikola Jurisic.
Yes.
High level passer, really crazy passer, and the scoring has started to come along for him. So I could see him, jumping in like a team in the 20s, just being like, hey, this guy is like a super high level passer, and we now are starting to see the scoring come together. Like, I'm in. Let's take a shot in the 20s and see what we can get at this big, crazy creator. So yeah, that'd be my one guy.
Yeah, see, this is why I have you as the draft guru, because that was like a perfect pull. It's a guy that's been who's here recently, has been moving up boards, because he had a couple of his last games were really good. He went into the combine, had a couple of really great moments, here and there, and now he's moving up. But he was definitely a guy that was not really being talked about in the last week and a half. Is all of a sudden just flying up boards or whatever, because he's 6'8". He was athletic. He can put the ball on the ground. It's weird to say he gives me Gigi Jackson vibes, where he does a lot of things in highlights where you watch him and go, how's this guy not a top 10 pick? But then after you watch the entire game, you're like, oh, because he's bad in all these other ways as well. But if you just watch him working ISO, you're just like, this guy has so much potential, but like, but but he's definitely a person that is going to be a really great project for somebody. A very cool pull, man. Well, thank you for coming in. Hopefully maybe we can link up again before all this. I am planning on doing a live draft. I think last year you were involved with like other people's things. So if you're free, maybe we'll hang out this year and talk. It should be a very fun draft. There weren't a lot of moves last year, but this year I think we're poised to get a lot of really fun draft moves, especially because it's 2 nights now. So if you're what's up?
You got a prediction for what the Grizzlies do? Trade up, trade down, stay at 9?
Well, we know that Kleiman goes and gets his guy, right? I think I saw like a stat where the last 12 picks or 13 picks, he's moved up on 9 of them. And then the other 3, he's just taking players in those spots, right? The only issue is it's so hard to move up from 9 to 3, right? Because it takes so much to get there. And then if Donovan is the guy, it's like, I don't think he's such a needle mover that it's worth trading away a lot of future assets, right? So it's a really weird spot. So I feel like maybe the Spurs, because if they can get Topic at 8, or if Rob falls to 8 or 9, I feel like they have more runway to have guys fall to them. And if you can give them something else, maybe at 4, it makes more sense or something. But it's weird, man. I'm kind of like, I'm just okay with anything at this point. I've got like a short list of like 15 guys that I really love in this draft. I've got like all my purchase orders for all their jerseys ready to go, and stuff. So, I mean, honestly, in my last video, if we're making moves, I would love to go get Jared Allen. I think if you can, take number 9, Marcus Smart, and some other stuff, and go get Jared Allen, he makes so much sense here. It sucks to lose Marcus and never really get to see him in that mold on that team. But Vince Williams is awesome also, and he's only 23, and he also hits from 3 and stuff. And pairing Jared Allen next to Jaren Jackson would be absolutely stupid, because they actually fit better together than Evan Mobley, because Mobley is just not very dynamic on offense, but Jaren is. So you can, move them away from each other and stuff. I think it would be just killer, but I'm excited either way, man. I mean, like, this is my Christmas, always. So, every day I get more and more excited, what we need to do is sell advent calendars for the draft. You just have it's each day, and like each one is like a player card or something, something cool like that. I think that's like a lot of money right there.
You do it like 30 to 1 counting down, and you do the best pick at each pick. It's like the greatest 30th pick. There you go.
Jesus. So, and now like a random person's going to see this and make like, $2 million and be able to go.
Maybe they'll just throw us like $5. Yeah, throw us $5 or something.
Yeah, come on, man. Awesome, man. Well, as always, a lot of fun hanging out with you. Hopefully people are still awake after this hour and a half, video. But until next time, man.
I'll see you, man. Thanks.